Ready? All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome back, Villa Park. It's been close to a month since we've seen you, so it's great to be back. Clerk Kornecki, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Davis.
Here.
Trustee Aiello.
Here.
Trustee Bolfus.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Case.
Here.
Trustee Wagner.
Here.
President Bowinkle.
Here. We would all please rise. We have Boy Scout Troop 199 here with us tonight. If you would mind leading us in a pledge, that would be great. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can all stay standing, remain standing for one more second. Trustee Wagner, would you like to lead us in prayer tonight?
Yes, Madam President.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the residents and staff of Villa Park, and continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trustee Wagner. Okay, item number 3 on the Committee of the Whole agenda is amendments to the agenda, to the Committee of the Whole agenda. Does anybody on the board have any amendments that they'd like to make to the Committee of the Whole agenda? Trustee Wagner?
Madam President,
Yes.
I would ask that the item number 6 be taken from the agenda, removed from the agenda. Our speaker will not be here this evening.
Okay. What we will do then with that is we'll just reschedule her. So, is the board okay with that amendment, removing item number 6, COW?
Lane Christensen.
Item number 6. Yeah, so do we need we don't need a motion. Okay, any other amendments to the agenda? Alrighty then. We are then going to move on to item number 4. We have guests here tonight with us. First of all, Boy Scout Troop 199. Want to come to the podium, introduce yourselves. You have a spaghetti dinner to tell us about.
I'm Zach Wolski.
I'm Gene Ciesla.
Yes.
And we're here to say that Boy Scout Troop 199 is having their annual spaghetti dinner on Sunday, February 23rd at the St. Alexander's Parish Hall and Gym. And, $9 adult tickets, $10 at the door, or $5 for children's tickets age 5 through 12, $6 at the door. Children under the age of 5 eat for free.
Fabulous.
We have a takeout, a drive-through, and an eat-in option for it. The scouts will serve you if you choose the eat-in option, and if you donate a non-perishable food item, you could get $1 discounted from your ticket.
Wonderful. You want to repeat the date and the time one more time?
Sunday, February 23rd, from 12 to 6 p.m.
6. Great.
Where is it?
Well, and this is at St. Alexander's, right?
Yes,
In the
in the
gym
gym.
there. Okay. Fabulous.
Can you come at 12 and 6?
Oh, I guess we have some questions here. So, what did you? Yes. Oh, okay. And Manager Keener actually has a question too. So.
I've had a number of staff ask me, is this all you can eat?
Yeah.
Of course. Staff
We'll be
wants
there.
to eat. So, oh, wow.
Right. With any questions, please contact Jennifer Neary at 630-878-5815.
Great. And I have to say, I have attended this spaghetti dinner in the past, and it is delicious. So I absolutely will do everything I can to be there. So thank you for bringing that forward. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we move on to the next item?
Nope.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thanks for coming out with us and spending a very cold evening with us here in Villa Park. So good luck with your dinner.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Now, item number 5. We'll catch it later. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda is introduction of State Representative Deb Conroy. If you'd like to come forward. She'd like to
Thank
share
you,
a few
President
things.
Bullwinkle.
Yes.
It's very nice, very impressive by the Boy Scouts and the drive-through. Wow, you guys are entrepreneurs. That's great.
Yes, pretty awesome.
I like that. Well, really, just basically here to say good evening to you guys. Let you know, I think, as you already know, we had a really tough session last year. Had some really tough votes. Things you probably don't read about in the paper very often. We did manage to not spend 1 cent more than we brought in, which was good. We prioritized education, K through 12, which I'm very proud of. We also paid $2 billion in back bills. All great things, but we have a very long way to go. This session is going to be probably equally as difficult or more so. We've got a serious revenue problem, as all of you know about. Most important thing to me, I'm going to continue to do this session, is I'm just talking to as many constituents as I can. I think most folks in Villa Park know my office is right up, I always say, by the Funky Java, since everyone knows where that is, and the Harris Bank. And I have staff there every day, whether I'm there or not. You can always get a hold of me. And what's important to you is what I need to know, especially when we have some really important things coming up. It's really important that I know what my constituents prioritize and what they want, because it's my job to vote according to what your needs are. So I think as we go forwards, that's the most important thing, is making sure everybody knows that I'm accessible. I consider myself part of the Villa Park team, and therefore, let me know anytime if there's anything, even if you just have questions or concerns, or, a lot of times you'll hear about something, and sometimes we can help to clarify things, and there's often times when people will come to me and they'll have a point of view that maybe we haven't thought about. And it's good for me too, because I can bring that message to Springfield, and we can try to make some changes and make sure that they benefit our town too.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have some constituents here. So is there anybody in the audience that have any questions for our state rep? Anybody? I'm going to throw that out there just in case.
Sure,
They have some-
absolutely.
There's always
And-
something on somebody's mind. so-
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm always accessible.
Okay.
And, please be sure that you stop by the office or call anytime.
Okay. And how about the board? Anybody? Okay. Trustee Aiello.
Is there an anticipation of the state that we would be able to pay another $2 billion off? In fact, that's this year?
The $2 billion last year came from what we kind of considered a windfall, and that was folks paying off, selling off capital gains. So we got $2 billion from that. So that all went to paying back bills, which was definitely a priority. So I think, as you know, we have a revenue issue. We have a tax increase that's due to sunset in 2015, which I believe needs to sunset because that was the promise that we made. So we're going to have some unique challenges. So if you have answers to solve our budget problems, please call me.
And
Thank
actually,
you.
what is your number, since you mentioned?
Oh gosh,
how-
I don't know. Seriously, I don't know my
how
cell
people
phone
can get a
number.
hold of you. so.
Absolutely, they can call my office right here in Villa Park, and I'm sure we can get that number out there to
Okay.
everybody.
All right. Are there any other questions from the board before we move on?
Okay.
Are we good? Andrew Keener?
Yeah, I was going to ask one.
Oh, please, yes, go for it. Yes, yes, yes.
What's your feeling on the wireless 911 surcharge where it's going to sunset? How do you feel that's going to shake out?
It's interesting. We heard a lot about that last year. Haven't heard that much about it this year. So I really can't say. Going back next week, maybe we'll start to hear a little bit more about it again. But yeah, last year at the end of there were several things at the end of the session last year that were really being pushed hard, and then nothing happened. So now we're starting to hear those come back. So hopefully I'll have a better answer for you when I get back next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Great. Anybody else? Oh, Trustee Aiello, you have something else?
Good.
No? You sure? Okay, I thought I saw.
Give me a call. It sounds like we
Please.
might have some good ideas.
If I think of something good, I'll give you a call.
Good,
All righty
thank you.
then.
Thanks, President Bullwinkle.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, item number 6 on the committee of the whole agenda, discussion only, presentation of complete streets initiative. Actually, took that off the agenda. We're going to move on to item number 7 now. Consider resolution approving a contract proposal from V3 Engineering for preparation of a comprehensive flood plan for 1/3 of the village of Villa Park. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I believe this was discussed just vaguely during our last board meeting. The storms in April 2013 affected many portions of the village. During and after the storm, village staff gathered flood-related data, took numerous photos, and developed maps identifying affected areas and interviewed residents to obtain more details regarding the nature and impact of the floods. And Your Honor and Board, that's where a lot of the photos came from that we've placed around the board chambers, are from the April 2013 storm where we received 9 inches of rain within 30 hours. And, it's something that I know I'll never forget. I'll continue on, Your Honor. Village staff is developing a comprehensive flood plan to identify and prioritize future flood control projects. The third component of this proposed plan is an evaluation of the Sugar Creek drainage basin. V3 Consultants has submitted a proposal in the amount of $69,735 for this purpose. This study will focus on the specific areas such as Addison Avenue north of Madison, Jackson Pond and Lovekin Ponds, the 800 block of South Michigan, and the areas near Terry Lane. The report will include flood routing information, inundation maps, and proposed mitigation alternatives. This study will interact with the current study being conducted by RJN Associates, Combined Sewers is what they're taking a hard look at, and Chris Burke Engineering, our comprehensive flood plan. Project costs would be charged to the Stormwater Buyout Fund. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, we have some folks here.
Yes,
tonight
we do.
from V3, so we'd like to have them maybe come forward and explain a little bit more about the project, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions from the public and probably from the board too, so we'll start there. You want to state your name for the record?
Derek Martin with V3 Companies.
Thank you very much. So we can just review what
Sure.
the process is and how you're involved in that type of thing.
I think probably the thing to stress is everybody associates the flooding with Sugar Creek and the overbank flooding. This study is going to take a little bit closer look at some of the low-lying areas or the areas that are trapped and or have poor overland flow routes, undersized storm sewers where you see a lot of the residential flooding of structures, garages, homes, and that kind of thing. That's not necessarily directly tied to flooding along the creek. It'll obviously have an influence of it. We'll have some kind of interaction there. But this is a more comprehensive looking at trying to identify all these site-specific kind of isolated flooding problems that cause structural damage in severe storm events like we saw in April. And so the goal will be to kind of get an overland idea of where all the flooding problems are, prioritize those, and then identify some mitigation alternatives to see if we can come up with the most cost-effective way to kind of knock those flooding problems off the list of projects to be implemented. Any other questions on that?
Yes, Manager Keener.
And Your Honor, I think I'd like to bring up also that we do have a professional relationship with V3 Consultants, and I think you've helped us in the past navigate through some other projects, and we do have a good comfort level with your organization.
Correct. We currently do engineering reviews for the village, and we are pretty familiar with the Sugar Creek watershed through some of the reviews, like the high school improvements, other improvements that have taken place in the watershed. In addition, we also reviewed a Manhard study that was done in this watershed a while back, so we're pretty familiar with the watershed, very familiar with DuPage County and the process and everything that kind of goes with that, so yeah, we have experience.
Thank you. All right.
Any specific questions?
Well, we actually, we'll ask the public first. Yeah, we'll toss it out to the public first, and we'll get to the board in a second, so. Any questions and comments from the public? We do have a few people here. Okay, I need you to come to the podium, state your name for the record,
Sign in.
and then sign in too. Yes.
Okay, my name's Leonard Sitkevich. I live at 824 Harvard. That picture of Michigan,
Yes.
I live just to the east of there. That picture is not representative of the damage to the flooding at all. You have pictures of these 4-foot cyclone fences. There's one right here for Yale. The water in my backyard is about this high from the top of that fence. So that's 4 foot of water, okay? It goes over 3 yards on my side, on the Harvard side, and goes onto the Michigan side at least 4 yards. That's a lot of water. I gave the president pictures and I gave Bob pictures. And it wasn't just last year. These pictures go back to 2008. I have them in the dead of winter, where we had flooding that bad in the winter when it thawed, which we could have here with the thaw of this snow. In 2010, we had one almost as bad as the one last year on the 13th. Same amount of water. There's paperwork in the disc that I gave both of them that we had contacted the village and the group of people from Michigan and Harvard met, and we donated, or we all put in $35. It's on village stationery, where the engineer of the village got together with somebody, maybe this guy here, I don't know, and put together a plan for drainage. Now, that was 2010. This is now 2013. We're still talking about it. We've had real problems with flooding there. In 2010, one of the homes on the Michigan side, the woman died, and the house sat empty for a couple of years. The house filled with water and was filled with black mold. The city is aware of it, at least the engineers that I spoke with. I could give you their names. I wrote all this down. So, I mean, somebody bought the house and renovated it, but we don't want black mold in our community. I mean, a whole house of black mold, it's dangerous. It's not good for anybody. And if we tore it down and didn't tent it properly, it could affect everybody here. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I rented a pump that, on the 13th or last year and pumped it, and I paid for the pump myself. And I couldn't get the pump right away because nobody had pumps. Plus, I needed 200 feet of a hose to get the water to the street. And I pumped the whole thing out myself on my dime. You know, nobody, I'm not asking, you know what I mean? It's safety, you know? I don't want to get sick, and I don't want my property damaged. I just want something done, you know? And I read in the paper in January, before the meeting that was canceled, and it wasn't clear to me if my area is going to be addressed. So that's why I'm here now, and that's why I'm speaking up. I want, you know, whatever it takes. I mean, I've already donated money or gave money towards a plan. You have a copy of this. Bob's got a copy. If all of you guys can share, or if you want, I'll make you copies and deliver them to wherever you're at, so you all have a copy and can see the pictures. I mean, this is a lot of pictures going back to 2008. So, yeah, this has been an ongoing problem.
Thank you.
So,
Did you sign in? Gotta make sure. I've got the Boy Scout names for you. Okay. Gotta get that one. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. It's not a pleasant topic, but we're really wanting to be proactive to do something about this, so.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and actually, we have Director Jascalis, Vitas Jascalis, Public Works.
Just to follow up on the last gentleman's comments, any other residents that have any photographic evidence of that type, please submit it to us now, because that will be very useful when they do the modeling and establish the high water levels to determine the volumes of water we're talking with. So if there are other photos such as that, would be a good time to bring them forward.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, in regards to the area itself, we can review what what this area will cover too, to help answer some
Well, as a matter of
other
fact,
resident
to my
questions.
right, there is
so.
a map that shows the area that will be covered by
Okay.
this study. It's the
Yeah, if you could
the
reiterate
pinkish
for the
area.
folks, for the folks at
I don't know
home.
if the camera can zoom in on that or
Yeah,
not, but
in case they can't.
basically, the Sugar Creek watershed goes, I'd say, a little bit north of Washington Street in parts, you know, roughly Washington, north and south. Derek's kind of pointing it out there. So I believe it does include that block of Michigan in the Sugar Creek watershed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull the horse so people can see these.
Okay.
I know, I was gonna go grab it.
Okay.
I'll go
I'll
grab
do
it.
it.
All right. Manager's gonna. It's gonna play Vanna White.
That was a good one.
Makes a very good Vanna White. So there we go. Okay.
So here's the area that will be.
Oh,
Turn it
yeah,
around,
we're gonna have to
Rich.
turn it around
Other way.
because it's
On the back.
It's backwards
Oh, there
here.
you go.
There we go.
We'll get it right.
Yep. We're coming there. Yeah, we have to basically.
So the Sugar
There you
Creek
go.
Basin is basically this area.
Well.
Call it
There you go, perfect.
reddish.
All right. Okay.
So that would be the area that will be addressed by this study. Now, last time when we talked about the Chris Burke study, that would be the rest of the village. So that's this grayish area, which is everything outside the Sugar Creek Basin. And the third piece that we talked about is the combined sewer study that we're getting Hurricane Ike finding funding, that's the crosshatch area in red, so that's the combined sewer area. So that's being looked at from the standpoint of combined sewers. This will look at the drainage in Sugar Creek Basin, and then this little piece and the rest of that will be the rest of the drainage study, that will be Chris Burke. So that's the three pieces of the puzzle.
Yes. Brings it all together.
Can I ask a question?
See if there's anybody else from the public first, yeah, and then we'll toss it to the board. Anybody else from the public? Before we toss it up to the board? There's a lot of questions up here, so, too. Okay, I wanna make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, all right, for the board now, questions and comments, Trustee Aiello?
That pink area that you're referring to, which is the Salt Creek.
That's
drainage-
Sugar Creek
Sugar
Basin.
Creek, Sugar Creek, drainage basin. Outside that pink area, nothing outside that pink area drains to, is it within that basin?
Well, to the north, most of that drains directly east to Salt Creek. It's not a tributary of Sugar Creek. So Sugar Creek is technically a sub-basin of Salt Creek, but that drains directly to Sugar Creek. And then that little area down in the southeast, that actually drains southeast towards Roosevelt Road to Roosevelt.
Okay.
So it's not part of the Sugar Creek Basin either.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, please, come to the podium so we can pick you up on the mic.
That exhibit only reflects a part of the watershed that's within the village. So we do receive from the west quite a bit of drainage that comes from Lombard
Sure.
into the village.
Yeah. Everybody on Anson Road knows that.
Yes, fine.
Second question is, I have some reluctance on this, and it's not because I don't feel for your situations where you have flooding. I feel for our situation of, we do studies every once in a while, and then studies sit there. Do you know when the last time we've done a study similar to this is?
1983.
Okay. Do you know out of that, and that study, so we need one, understood, I appreciate that. How much of that study actually turned into projects?
I'd say more than 50% of it.
Good, okay.
I mean, most of the drainage system in the combined area now is a result of that study, because at that point, it was all combined sewers in that. And as I recall, Kathy, refresh my memory, we're about 80% separated by area now.
Right.
So in the 20-something years, we've separated by land area 80% of the combined sewer system. So that's quite a bit, considering we were at zero at one point.
So, my understanding of what you're saying, make sure I'm understanding correctly, is 80% of the village has separate storm sewers and separate
The combined
sanitary
sewer,
sewers?
the combined sewer area is roughly between the Union Pacific West Line and Madison Street. That's the old section of town. That was 100% combined sewers. So that's the area that we've been separating since the early 80s, and that area is now 80% separated. The other areas have been separate to begin with. And there have been drainage improvements in those areas
Okay.
as well, such as Lufkin Lagoon, which was converted
Yeah.
into a detention
Right.
basin.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Venus.
Okay,
understand.
sure.
Hey, Peter.
Trustee
What's the
Davis.
flooding difference between the 80s till now?
Well, urbanization is one factor. I
No,
mean, there's
we're
been a lot-
flooding a lot more now than we were back in the 80s, right? The floods are getting more and more damaging.
Well,
more
I don't know
standing water.
statistically if that's true or not.
Oh, I'm asking
know
that
if I-
question. I moved
They,
here.
I think they've redefined the 100-year storm.
Yeah,
so
we
that
need you
might
back
be-
in front of the mic, yeah.
Well, the old method of what they considered a flood, they used to use a technical paper. 40, which had a 5.4 inches, was considered the 1% storm event, and now it's 7.58. The other thing is too, like Vita said, we do have more, maybe not specifically in the old part of the village or the more developed part of the village, but in the overall watershed as a whole, we've seen more development. And stormwater detention really didn't come into play to the early 90s as far as a countywide requirement. We've had some, like the village itself specifically has had some requirements on the books before then, but most people will say it's a combination of some additional development, better technology, better understanding of rainfall events, and then a lot of times for this type of flooding that we talk about, unfortunately over time, the original design, overland flow paths or different things get modified, but inadvertently people put planters there. Just things can happen sometimes where that can contribute to some of the flooding as well in some of the more established communities. So it can be a combination of all those things. As far as rainfall depths, if you go back to like the late 1800s, there have been years on record that are more wet than what we have currently, so it's kind of a big cyclical process as far as
Yeah.
true rainfall.
What about getting off of well water, where the water table gets reduced down? And we haven't been on well water in years, but it seems like I'm correlating this partly, and I've talked to you this before, that I think this has a correlation of not using wells, so our water table's up. Is that viable?
Well, not having, and that's a whole nother big study that from basically southern Wisconsin all the way down to the Chicagoland area, they see a big depressed area for groundwater, primarily because water doesn't sit and infiltrate anymore. We get it right off of pavement into pipes, right to the rivers, creeks, whatever, and it's gone. So there is a depression of groundwater, but most of us don't really care about that. I shouldn't say we don't care, but most of us are impacted because we get our water from the lake. So
So the water table itself has no bearing on this?
it really shouldn't. The water table here in this area, in the Chicagoland area, northern Illinois area, is fairly depressed.
Yeah.
April event was a really bad event because we had, I don't know, the wettest April of record. So the ground was all saturated, so it's like having a high groundwater table. At that point, we had a saturated ground with a significant storm event combined with it, and that's what resulted in a lot of the flooding.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Let's see.
Sure.
I'll get back to you. Okay, Trustee Boltus.
Couple questions. When do you think you'll be finished with this study? What's the time frame?
Okay, well, I can answer part of that. Because of the other parts of the study, basically all the data gathering, or a lot of the data gathering, was done by RJN under their contract because that was grant funding.
And Kathy's from RJN?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
yes,
thought I recognized you.
yes.
So, once they have their model runs done and all the field data, we're gonna turn it over to the other two consultants so that they can do their modeling on the storm sewer. So, I'm
Now,
guessing
the
you're
other
gonna be
two
done in
consultants
another month
are-
or so.
Well, I need.
Who's the
Yes,
other two
yes,
consultants?
Pardon me?
RJN and Burke are
And
the other
Burke.
two?
I'm
Okay.
Catherine Morley from RJN. We still have a number of structures to pick up. If someone could tell me when this winter will be over, then we can
Next week.
inspect the rest of the structures.
Sounds good.
But, you know, it has been really, really tough to get out there to pick up the measurements that we need on all the storm structures in the combined area.
See, that leads me to one of my other questions, is we've got 3 consultants here. And you're working on this Sugar Creek, you're working on the north part, you're working on sewer separation.
Combined.
Who's bringing all this together? Vetus? Okay, so this, you know, because I can see we each working, because the drainage is different, so we have different consultants for each one. I just want to make sure we get some comprehensive review when we get all done, to figure out a plan of action.
Well,
All of us have met together on at least one occasion. Several of us have met on several occasions.
Okay, good.
for example, in the combined area, Burke needs the drainage basins delineated, and we're picking up the data for that. So we are delineating the drainage basins and then providing them that data. So there's a, you know, and obviously we will be modeling the combined sewer, how much has been separated, and the potential to separate more. And obviously, as we separate more, that becomes a storm sewer, which is Christopher Burke's study. So, you know, they are very much tied together. But we are obviously communicating with each other.
Yeah, because I noticed at Burke last time when you were here, you mentioned about coming up with methods to, you know, storage of water and all that. And now V3 is saying the same thing. And I just wanted to make sure we all weren't doing the same thing.
Now, we're looking at the potential to separate the sewers, because the other issue that the village has, which is not what we're talking about tonight, is combined sewer overflows, which also you get when you have storms of this magnitude. And those have impacts with EPA. So if you separate sewers, obviously that becomes a bigger issue on the stormwater side, but it reduces the incidences of combined sewer overflows, which are a major health concern.
Now, V3 is working on the overland on the Sugar Creek area.
Right, that's why we
But-
have the map there. There's,
We need you in front of the mic, whoever's going to speak.
You
Sorry.
mentioned, though, that we get a fair amount of water from the west, from Lombard. How are we addressing that problem?
we have the entire Sugar Creek Basin delineated, so
Oh.
we know how big the basin is.
Yeah,
Well,
but if the
from-
water's coming from the west, Lombard has to be taking care of their water and not just sending it down to Villa Park. What are we gonna do about that?
Well, we have to identify it and quantify it first.
Okay.
Then, once we do that, then we can approach Lombard when the time comes to address those issues.
And I wanted to make one comment for Leonard, but if you notice, well, first off, when we get all these studies done and to solve the problem, it's gonna be expensive. There's no doubt about it. So, as you'll see, Leonard, on item 13 on the agenda in the COW, that's where we're talking about how we're gonna pay for this and revenue source for alleviating these problems in the whole village. So, I would encourage Leonard and is this your wife here? Yes, you're denying it?
No.
Girlfriend? Okay, sorry. You pay half of it? Okay. I guess I sort of stepped into that.
Anyway.
I would recommend that anybody who's listening and everybody you know who has a flooding issue, now, the funding of these projects, when we get the reports, like I said, are gonna be expensive. And we're discussing tonight about a funding source. It's not on the formal agenda yet where we're actually gonna vote. But when that comes up, any residents at home, I would encourage you who want us to go ahead with finding a funding source to come to the board meeting and voice your concerns. And if you're for it or not for a funding source to take care of these problems, please come down here and let us and talk to us and come to the board meeting and voice your opinions. Because
kind of the unofficial leaders.
yeah, so I just
Actually, I had 2 points I'd like to make.
come, Mike.
Yeah, we need you at the mic.
Okay. Point one is, the people on Michigan, I went over there and passed out a thing, got everybody together, tried to get this organized, and I talked to a guy named Vitas. No, it wasn't you, there's another guy at the village, an engineer maybe?
There's an imposter.
He's Vasilius, there you go. And we met with him, okay? There's people on Michigan who said that when it floods like this, the groundwater is so high that it looks like a stream comes out of their backyard and goes down the driveway. So maybe we need to look into this. Maybe we need to talk to those people on Michigan, because I believe my sump pump is working all the time now, okay? And that's groundwater, okay? It's frozen out, but I get seepage of water in my basement now. So
Mine
there
working
is high
too.
groundwater here. The people who think that this is not a good idea, or that whatever, in this community, if the power goes out and we have flooding like this, you're done.
You're done.
Your property is gone. Look at what it's gonna cost for insurance for flooding here, okay? It's insane. We gotta do something, because if it goes out, we're through. That area I live in, we're done. The power went out a couple years ago, around the 4th of July. And I was lucky to be there, because my sump pump, I have the battery backup. I have water barrels in my backyard for gardening. I took 5-gallon buckets out of the basement and filled 5 50-gallon water barrels. That would have been in my basement if I wasn't there. You're an idiot not to address this.
Well,
Anybody.
I just want you to encourage your neighbors and anybody
Yeah,
at
no,
home who's
yeah.
listening to this to, when we get to it, actually make a decision to be part of the discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
But they should be educated, really. And if
Right.
you go back, these flooding areas, there's part of that was supposedly a public area. There were gonna be an alley back there for a lot of these communities, or a lot of these areas. And I believe where I live, on Harvard, there's like a throughway that at one time there was supposed to be an alley. And along there, a lot of the trees are dead and have not been cut down properly. So if you get a good storm and the tree goes over and knocks the power out for any length of time, and it rains or floods like that, we do have some pumps pushing it out. If they don't, there's gonna be some terrible problems, you know? And then people are gonna come screaming to you about it later. So I think proactive is, you know, at least address the issue.
That's what we're trying to do. So, thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Anybody else on the board? Nope. Trustee Wagner, go with Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate Mr. Sitkevich coming, and I did see his pictures, and I did see it firsthand, and it was every bit as bad as he says it is. And I'm just glad that we found a way to get this piece of it done, so these folks don't have to wait. And I'll obviously be voting yes on this to move it forward, so that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Ayello.
One's a comment, one's a question. Vitas, who's backup for you on the knowledge of meshing these three different engineered companies together?
All engineering staff are involved. Vasily, who is not Vitas, and Kevin Mantles from our engineering staff. And of course, Rich Salerno, who is no longer in engineering, he's still in the department, so he will still be around to act as a backup if needed.
And then just one comment, that the prior work we have done, the work you did, I think you were involved, I'm sure you had to be involved in it, along Ardmore at what used to be Lufkin Pond, we used to call it, which is the detention area.
That was 1990.
So, I mean, that helped enormously, because I can remember as a kid in 1970, 76, running down to that area along Rand that was adjacent to that. There was a little spot where the water ran from everything west of there through to the pond. And we would, bring our little sticks out and run our stick brigades down the pond, all the way down into the pond from that stream that would flow through there. And you can't do that anymore unless you have a storm like we had last year in April. And there's also the detention that we did west of that in Jackson, in the Jackson field.
That was done before my time.
That's before your time?
That was done in the 70s.
There's a subsequent one.
Jackson and Lufkin are the only two village-owned.
West of Jackson, east of the school.
Right, that's Jackson Pond.
That's done in the 70s?
Yes.
That whole detention area, that's all in the 70s?
I spoke with the village.
No, because I used to run through there. No, in '82 I ran through there.
No.
It was
Get chased by Ville Park police through there.
It was built in the 70s. It was expanded.
Okay,
later on.
there you
The
go.
expansion is what you remember.
Okay.
It was very shallow initially.
Yeah, because there used to be trees and everything, I used to get in trouble in.
So it was expanded in the 90s. You are
Gotcha,
correct.
okay. That's what I remember.
Okay.
Okay, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's not like something hasn't been done. Some things are being done a little faster would be nice, and maybe funding it was a good way of doing it.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Right. Trustee Case.
One quick question. Vitas, I'm all for the flooding. I used to live in a flooded area in Ville Park. Now, common sense says, how much pertains to digging up the streets to take care of this problem?
Well, I think a large part of this problem will be finding open spaces to store the excess water.
Okay,
Not
so-
necessarily the streets. The streets will be probably the conveyance, but you have to convey the water somewhere where it does not do any damage or does less damage. So finding where to take the water, whether it's expanding existing detention areas or finding other open space for detention areas, or last resort expensive, putting it underground somewhere. But you need to find a place to put the water.
Correct, but now, I know we have a street problem, but that's a dream anyway, but we're not gonna dig up, we're gonna have to dig up streets to maybe find
Well,
places to
streets
put
in
it,
the
right?
combined area will need storm sewers.
Okay.
Streets in the separated area, which probably have undersized sewers, will need either relief sewers or bigger sewers for conveyance, again.
So we're not gonna go redo a street and then come back and dig it up later, is what I'm getting at.
Well, that's not the plan. The plan is to design the drainage system now so that we can incorporate that into the road projects.
Okay.
I mean, we have a capital improvement program where we have identified which streets we think need to be done and which streets need storm sewers. Part of this process will be vetting our list of streets to make sure we have the right streets selected and that we have the right improvements selected and what's the priority. So
Okay.
they already have our list of what we intend to do, so they're gonna kind of take a look at that and tell us, okay, this needs to be moved back, this needs to be bigger, this needs to be changed. So that's part of the whole process, is looking at what we already have in the works.
Okay. Just don't wanna dig up a street that we're gonna go and.
Nobody
Right.
does.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Trustee Anybody else? Keener, did you have anything else that you wanted to say or add?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Good. Okay. Well, I just really quickly just want to echo what Trustee Bolt has said. If there's any residents out there, we have a few here with us tonight, but anybody who's out there that wants to participate in the process, come to our board meetings, give the board a call, give the staff a call. By all means, please plug yourself into this. You know, we're asking for a lot of help from our residents and a lot of feedback. Some of these pictures that we have here in the boardroom with us tonight that have been up for a long time just show a very small snapshot of what we're dealing with here tonight. So with that then, I do a roll call vote to move this forward.
Okay. Trustee Ayello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Item number 8 on the Committee of the Whole agenda, consider resolution approving a contract proposal from Lane Christensen for the removal and inspection of apparatus within well number 7. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff would like the board to consider approving a contract proposal in the amount of $40,000 from Lane Christensen for the removal and inspection of apparatus within well number 7. The apparatus within the well located adjacent to fire station number 2 has become inoperable and is in need of repair, replacement, or abandonment. To determine if the apparatus can be or should be repaired, replaced, or abandoned, the apparatus must first be removed from the well and then inspected. Cost of the removal and inspection has been estimated on a time and material basis not to exceed $40,000, barring any complications. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any questions and comments from the public in regards to this item? Questions and comments from the board? Oh, Trustee Taglia.
Oh, I just, what is an apparatus?
Vitas Chiskalis, Director of Public
Sorry
Works.
about my answer.
Well, it's a well and pump and 1,000 feet of pipe.
Okay.
Okay. You good, Trustee?
Yep, that's what I needed.
All right, okay, great. Just want to make sure. Trustee Case.
This is on the north side, fire station 2?
Yes.
This is the one we drain once a month and flood the street over there? Or,
Well, we operate it once a month, and there is some runoff.
yeah, quite a bit of runoff, right? So do we need that well?
No.
Well, all the wells are for emergency purposes only right now. So we've operated wells twice since '92 when we went on well water. So is it a good insurance policy? Yes, but if it's not working, it doesn't matter. So whether we keep it or whether we abandon it, we still have to pull it either way.
Right.
So that's what we're proposing to do, is pull it, see what it looks like, and then go from there.
Trustee Bolfus.
So this is basically just to pull it and evaluate it. If we decide to abandon that well, will that come back to the board for its decision to do that?
Well, it's about $10,000 to abandon, so if it's in the budget, and I think the village manager has the authority, but if the board wishes, certainly we can bring it back.
Well, see, my concern is if that well is there for emergency purposes, in case we get an interruption of water from Chicago, and we don't have that well, how many other wells do we have for emergency purposes?
We have one other well, and that
that's
is
the one?
operable.
And where's that one?
That's south,
That one by the fire station
by
south?
Cornell, I believe, is the other one.
Oh, by
still.
Cornell? So,
But the one well that's left can supply the entire village with some conservation measures.
and what's the status of that well? and that
Well,
pump?
it's been operating. You know, we test them monthly, so far, so
We
good.
tested the other one monthly too.
Yeah,
so
and it started losing capacity.
How
That's why.
long has it been since that well out Cornell's been evaluated?
Well, we operate them monthly.
And it works
We
okay.
exercise them every month.
I'm just concerned about if we have an emergency situation where we're not getting water, who knows what could happen? We need a backup, and if, so.
Well,
I just don't wanna put the decision to abandon that well in the manager's decision and staff's decision. I think
we
that
can,
should be.
we can bring it back.
So I don't know what the rest of the board members think.
That's fine.
That's my personal opinion.
I'm for that. Bring it back.
We'll bring it back.
Thank you.
Certainly do that. Okay, Trustee Ayello.
What's it cost to replace a well? We don't know right now whether it's the pipe or the pump.
Right, I think they said if there's repairs necessary, they were estimating about $20,000 if it's repairable.
Right.
Now, replacement, you're probably talking 80 to 100,000 to replace it.
I must spend 40 to figure it out.
Well, 40 just to pull it, to abandon it.
Just to figure it out.
To abandon it would be at 10,000, so if it turns out we have to abandon it, it would be another 10,000. One thing you need to be aware of is that water quality standards have changed since the well was in operation. We're not even sure that the water in the well would meet current water quality standards. That's the other aspect we have to look at, that if it doesn't, then you may have to install additional treatment facilities to make the water even usable for the public water supply. So we would have to take that into account when we evaluate our alternatives.
Can I come back at that comment?
Well, Trustee Ayala, are you?
I want to make sure I understand that you're asking me to spend 40 grand to determine whether something needs to be abandoned or replaced or repaired. When a repair may cost 20 grand and a complete replacement is approximately $100,000, subject to the water there being okay.
Right.
And
An
not
abandonment would be an extra, would be
an
10,000.
extra 10. Okay, understood.
Trustee Bolfus?
Now let it go.
You sure? Well,
Yeah.
now's the time? Okay, okay. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. Director Giskelis and I were talking about this earlier today. No matter what we do, the apparatus has to be taken out of the well. So no matter what we do, if we're going to use it again, it still has to be taken out. If we're going to abandon it, all that has to be taken out anyway. So this is just a first step to decide what we're going to do. And once it's inspected, obviously there'll be some water tests conducted, which is the natural thing to do because it has to meet the current IEPA standards. So, and I would like for it to come back. There'll be, I'm sure, considerable discussion on this particular item. I feel and agree with Trustee Bolthuis that, you know, in case something would happen, we may need this well, but obviously it has to meet IEPA standards. Has not been operated very much in I don't know how many years, and
One time since 1992, according
yeah.
to the memo.
So I'm sure it needs to be looked at, obviously. So thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome. Okay, Trustee Davis?
We all know how much I feel about Chicago's extortion water rates. I am not willing to let any well go. And I've been actually asking for the water quality in these wells for 2 years now. Haven't seen it. I'm not trying to be mean, Beatrice, or nothing, but I've asked for these water, because I would love anything to tell Chicago where they can take their water rates. So, yeah, we do need to check into it. We got to remove it all. I mean, I don't know if you're all familiar with what a well consists of, but I don't want to give up any wells, especially if we only go down to one well, that if we have to use it, we have to be sparingly with the water. That's not what they're designed for when we have wells. So just want to put that on the table. And I would like to see a water study, complete study on that well water. That's all.
When was the last time we did a water study on the well water? 1981? I mean, we're not really using the well now anyway, but, I mean, has there been a study done?
Are you talking about water samples to test it for
The
quality?
well waters, we never, everything we get is the Chicago water. We don't
No.
ever get the
Right,
well
no,
water.
we have to test the wells every few years. It's not every year, but I think it's every 3 to 5 years that we have to test. I'll see if we can pull the last time we did a test.
Because I haven't seen it since I've been up here, and I'm big for wells.
It's not that often that we have to do it, so, but I'll see when's the last time.
But with it being inactive as they are, would you have to cycle it more frequently to get down to the good water?
Well, the aquifer is about 1,000 feet deep, so,
And these are not even including the Ovaltine wells, are they?
oh, no, these are
'Cause
village
those were
deep wells.
private-owned wells at the time. Okay.
No, these are part of the village's original water system. But I'll see what we can find. I'm sure there was either a full chemical analysis or a bacteriological analysis done in the last 5 years, and I'll see what we have.
I believe when I first moved in, we switched over way back when. So, yeah, I always want to keep it open out, like I said, for Chicago. They're getting rich off of all of us suburbs, so I'll leave it at that.
Trustee Ayala.
I am a little concerned with bringing it back. If we take it all out to inspect it, I do like the idea of bringing it back. But at the same time, if I bring it back and you could have closed it while you were there, am I spending more money to close it since I didn't close it while you were there?
No, it would be a different crew.
Okay. And what's the Ovaltine well? What's that about?
Ovaltine had their own wells. And rumor
Are
has
those
it
ours
they're
now?
from Lake
Those are long
Superior.
abandoned.
Abandoned, okay. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
This question is not about the wells or what we should do about the wells per se, but is there do other communities possibly use well water to maybe wash equipment or irrigate lawns or, it occurs to me that this could be a way to save money by not using, if it doesn't necessarily have to be potable water to wash equipment or to irrigate lawns with.
I believe that used to be a common practice with golf courses. I'm not sure about municipalities having the need for that much water, but, a lot of your golf course ponds used to be next to wells, so that when the water would come low, they would activate the wells and fill up the ponds for irrigation purposes. I'm not aware of municipalities using them for non-potable purposes. There's still a few communities that are still on well water totally. I believe Warrenville is still on wells, Lamont is still on wells, and there's a handful of other communities.
The question was brought up, because I did ask when I saw that well
Just in
getting
case.
emptied all the time, if we can use it for, and I don't remember who I talked to over there, but he says that water was not suitable for other uses or whatever, and the transportation of it would be way out of line too.
Well, it is high iron as
Yeah.
it comes out of the ground.
Right.
And so, there was treatment done to the water before it was introduced into the distribution system, because it is high iron. It's going to taste different than what you're used to if you utilize that for drinking water.
One more, sorry.
Make sure there's nobody over here. first. Okay, Trustee Taglia.
In the case that, in the future, let's just say hypothetically, water from the city of Chicago becomes too expensive for a lot of our residents, would there be a plan we could look at for possibly hooking up well water service to residents who can't afford the cost of city water?
It's either or.
Yeah, one
You-
system or
one-
another.
If you're on lake water, you cannot use your wells unless it's an emergency. If you go off of lake water completely, then you can go on your wells, but you cannot commingle.
Trustee, is it Ayala? Okay. Trustee Ayala.
Yeah, I was thinking I might have forgot it almost. Okay, so there's 40 grand. All right, so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, why am I spending 40 when I'm gonna fix, I gotta spend 100 to fix the damn thing. But I'm gonna spend 140 if I decide to replace it.
If it needs replacing.
And I'm gonna spend 60 to repair it, because the 40 is just to get it out and figure it out,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we have to do that anyway.
That's the
Right.
thing. All right, so I'm
The
just thinking about it.
$40,000 is to cover what we have to do.
So it's
anyway.
not like I don't do this and I just spend 100 to replace it.
No, you have to do this.
I
in
gotta
either
spend the
case.
40 anyway.
Right.
Click, okay, thank you.
This was outlined in the memo that
Yes.
you all
Sometimes
provided
I'm a little
to us,
slow.
that the staff provided to us. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. How about a roll call vote?
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Ayello?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Item number 9 on the COW. Consider resolution approving the expenditure of funds for the purchase of a new police squad car. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prior fiscal years, the fleet replacement schedule for police vehicles was delayed due to the lack of regular funding options. Now, as fleet replacement funds, drug and/or DUI funds become available, they are reviewed by staff for use in the purchase of new squad cars. At this time, staff proposes the use of approximately $15,000 received through the use of the local debt recovery program of the Illinois Comptroller's Office, and approximately $15,000 to be taken from the DUI Technology Fund 19 to purchase one squad car. And I'm not sure, Your Honor, if residents are used to the term local debt recovery program of the Illinois Comptroller's Office, but this is a program that Judy Barr Topinka has initiated, and most municipalities around us are using. And what really transpires is that if you happen to have an outstanding invoice, say for us, it could be in the water department, where we have somebody's water has been shut off and there's a lien upon their property, and they basically left us. We can take and file for those funds with the Illinois Comptroller's Office, because at some point in time, excuse me, Your Honor, I have a cold, that these folks will file for their state income tax. And lo and behold, if there's a match between the individual filing for their income tax and there's a link between that water user, then the state of Illinois will withhold that amount of money from their state income tax. And this program for the Village of Villa Park has been very successful for water liens, for red speed photo enforcement, any type of billing other than ambulance fees, because there's a HIPAA issue there, but has been very useful for us to go back many years and match records with the state of Illinois records, and they'll withhold these funds. So I think it's a great use of the money, and we do need a squad car. We've got many over 90,000 and a bunch over 100,000 now that need to be rotated out. So the plan is to buy a new squad, take an older car over 100,000 miles, and then sell it in our online auction, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the public about this item? Questions and comments from the board? Trustee Davis.
What are we buying this for, Chief? Another Tahoe?
Chief Bob Pavelchuk.
No, it's a Dodge Charger.
Okay.
That's what we have in the fleet. That's what we're building the fleet.
Yeah, the Tahoes are, we have two of them in the fleet now that are special use. Sometime in the future, one of those will have to go because of their special use, but, excuse me, the Chargers are the preferred vehicle of the people that have to ride in it for 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Stay up there just in case there's more questions. Yes, okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Manager King.
And one item that Chief Pavelchuk has not mentioned, it is the preferred vehicle of the folks that drive them. But what Chief did is he took the largest person we could find and put him in the vehicle to make sure that he would fit. And
Largest employee that we could find.
Wow.
Well, largest employee, yeah.
Not sure how to take that.
Right.
Okay.
It's a stout crew.
Get a booster seat for the small.
Hilarious. Oh, man. Okay. Okay, anybody else on the board? Trustee Wagner.
Would we avail ourselves of some joint purchasing? I know there are joint purchasing programs for squad cars.
That's how we get around not get around, but that's the preferred method, because the joint purchasing organizations, there's several different collectives, including the state, that then lock in low prices on contracts, so we don't have to go out and bid. We find someone who's done a joint purchasing collective where they've issued a bid. Off the top of my head, it might have been in the paperwork you got on this agenda memo that said where we got it for West Suburban Conference, one of these municipal organizations that does that.
Yes. The Suburban Purchasing Cooperative.
There you go.
Yes.
What she said.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else from the board? Or Trustee Wagner, I want to make sure, are you,
no,
you're good? Okay. Anybody else from the board?
Just, I have
Trustee Taglia.
this debt collection program. What is it called again?
Debt recovery.
Debt recovery. How much money have we been able to recover, Manager Keener?
That's a very good question, Trustee Taglia. Probably every third day or so, a report comes in from IT where there's a match. And what transpires is when there's a match, it's just not a match on one single record. We actually take a whole file, it could be like 900 records, and we shoot them to the state. They go through them, and you could have maybe 200 matches. And then what happens, once there's a match, there's a 60-day waiting period because the person that is going to have the funds withheld from their state income tax has 60 days to appeal or pay the fine to the municipality. And if they don't pay it, then the state collects the money, and then we'll receive a check from the state. So it doesn't happen overnight. It usually takes about 90 days or so. But right now, obviously, there's enough to pay for half a squad car.
Okay, well,
And this is the first year we've done this, because when we started the program, it was after April last year. So now this is the full test because people are waiting for their income taxes. And so
Nice
this is
job.
great.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to say that out loud.
Anybody else from the board? Anything else? Just a couple things. According to the staff memo, looks like the 2014 Dodge Charger four-door sedan police vehicle will be a price not to exceed $22,932. And if I read this right, equipment installation costs were included in the total estimate cost. So for just under 23,000, Charger's going to be loaded, or?
No, that car, that's the car.
Okay.
And then we have to install the lights,
Okay.
radio siren equipment.
Got it, okay, all right, okay. So we have up
We-
to
we-
$30,000.
we won't exceed
but
30 we will
yeah,
not
we
exceed
I wouldn't
30,000.
think so.
No,
'Cause
you won't.
Because I thought 22.
No, we won't.
No,
I've been told.
Well,
Okay.
I wouldn't think we would have to. I mean, we usually get a pretty good deal through this cooperative, which is why,
Right.
municipalities, we have a collective, effort there to help save funds. So just under 30,000, and that would be good. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, we're gonna go roll call vote, guys.
Okay, Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Bullfus.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Okay. Item number 10 on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Consider resolution approving intergovernmental agreement with Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, for repairs to North Avenue Bridge over Salt Creek. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Illinois Department of Transportation, otherwise known as IDOT, proposes to make improvements to the North Avenue Bridge over Salt Creek. Multiple agencies will be financially responsible for the project. A proposed intergovernmental agreement will establish cost sharing for the project among the agencies involved. Village of Villa Park's estimated share, or its share, is $32,039. And Your Honor, we do have this funding, and we're able to pay our fair share. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Any questions and comments from the public about this item? Okay, questions and comments from the board. Trustee Bolfus.
I'm looking at how they came up with the 32,000. I find it kind of interesting that it's shared between the state, the federal government, Elmhurst, DuPage County, and Villa Park. And of the two suburban towns, I should say, 3 suburban towns, Villa Park's is the highest amount, 32,000. Elmhurst is 19,600, and DuPage County is $1,100. Now, do we have any property by this bridge? I don't think we do, but I noticed that they're gonna redo the light traffic signals on Villa and North Avenue, and that's where most of our expenses are
All of
coming.
our expenses because of the intersection of Villa and North, that the south leg of Villa is Villa Park. So all those improvements are in that section.
Now, does Villa Park only has 3 corners there, and Elmhurst has 1 corner?
No, the north side is DuPage County.
The north side?
The
The
North Avenue is
northeast
DuPage
corner?
County.
The northeast side?
Right, I believe the entire north side of the intersection is DuPage, and then Elmhurst is immediately east of the intersection.
Okay. I just wonder why we're having to pay 100% for the emergency vehicle preemption system replace if we don't have all the corners there. We're paying all of it, and It's,
Well, because it's our preemption system.
oh, it is ours, so we're
Yes.
in charge of that preemption system? Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that. So I thought we shared those expenses, so. But, you know, I just find it kind of odd that we have to pay anything when the state wants to redo their bridge, and we have to pay a part, so, but I guess we don't want to get IDOT mad at us, do we? Okay, that's all.
Can we go back and ask them to pay a little bit more? Anybody else on the board? No? Okay, just an FYI for the residents, this construction project is slated to begin sometime this spring. I don't know, Public Works might have a better idea of what the timeline is, but it'll take 5 to 6 months, probably longer, just figure longer. Things never take as amount of time as you think it's gonna take. So we just want to put it out there, be prepared, there will be reroutes done and posted, and this is gonna be a pretty major undertaking that IDOT is going to be taking on, basically reconstructing this bridge on North Avenue over Salt Creek, so batten down the hatches. Okay. Anything else? Okay, roll call vote.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Okay. Item number 11 on the committee of the whole agenda, consider resolution increasing non-union employee health insurance premium percentage. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff would like the board to consider improving an increase in the percentage paid by all non-union employees for the benefit of health care. As a direct result of fees associated with the implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act, and increases forecasted by the village's health insurance broker, Hub International, village costs associated with providing employee health care are increasing. Village health care insurance costs are divided between the employer and the employee. Currently, the employer pays 85% and the employee pays 15% of health care costs. As a result of the above-mentioned cost increases, staff requests a consideration of an increase in the percentage paid by the non-union village employees in the following manner. Effective May 1st, 2014, it would increase from 15% to 16%. Effective May 1st, 2015, increase from 16% to 17%. And effective May 1st, 2016, an increase from 17% to 18%. Or in other words, Your Honor, a 3% increase over 3 years for the non-union employees only. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public about this item? Okay, questions and comments from the board? Anybody? I just want to mention that it's been at least 2 years since there's been an increase on employee health insurance, or how long has it been?
It's been before me, Your Honor.
Oh, so
it's at
much
least
longer
3.
than 2 years, okay. All right, and, all right. Unfortunately, this is kind of the reality of where we're in the real world. You know, there's a lot of costs. I mean, my health insurance went up, and I'd be willing to bet that folks up here who pay health insurance probably saw an increase as well, so, it stinks, but by the same time, it's kind of where we're at in life today, so. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
No.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Item number 12 on the committee of the whole agenda. Consider resolution for annual update of the village's safety incentive programs. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff would like the consideration of approving a continuation of the Safety Incentive Program and the Safe Driver Program. The Village Safety Committee annually compiles goals and objectives for the upcoming calendar year in addition to reporting on the previous year's results. It is recommended that the Village Board once again approve the Safety Incentive Program for 2014 at an estimated cost of $6,750, which is based on employees choosing $50 or a half day off if the village goals are met. Only one department did not meet their goal in 2013. In addition, it is recommended that the Safe Driver Program is also approved in 2014 at an estimated cost of $1,100. If the board agrees, then the committee is requesting a formal resolution be adopted immediately in order to set 2014 goals and publicize for all eligible employees. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any questions and comments from the public about this item? Questions and comments from the board? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Ayello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bowie?
Yes. Item number 13, discussion only, stormwater utility fund. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Village of Villa Park has determined it needs a dedicated source of funding to properly address the stormwater management program needs. The establishment of a stormwater utility will provide for the management, protection, control, regulation, use, and enhancement of the stormwater systems and facilities owned or operated by the village. Management and supervision of this utility will be under the direction of the Director of Public Works. Pursuant to the Stanley Consultant Stormwater Study, a stormwater utility rate should be established to reflect the study's recommendation. Staff requests the President and Board of Trustees approve this ordinance, but Your Honor, this is only discussion this evening.
Yes.
And staff would like further direction at this time. It's been a few months since staff has been before the board to discuss the stormwater utility. Staff has met with business owners and local representatives of our school districts, received their comments, and have taken their comments to heart and actually revised our proposed stormwater utility brochure. And currently, I believe the board does have that brochure that offers discounts for educational credits, discounts for detention basins, and Your Honor, our meetings were very favorable. The businesses and school district representatives had many questions. I believe we answered them, met with them again. I think we've met with them at least 3 or 4 times. Their budgets are actually July-based. One of their comments was to, if the board would consider maybe implementing it July 1, 2014 or later, that way they can plan for it, and that's certainly understandable for any school district or business, et cetera. But, Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Director of Public Works, Jaskelis, to discuss and kind of go through a little bit of the brochure, et cetera.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is take you through some of the changes that we're proposing that weren't in the initial study or in the initial brochure. The main changes would be the incentives. The original draft ordinance did not contain any incentives whatsoever. It would have been everybody paid based on the impervious area on their property. So what we've introduced is we're proposing to give properties the opportunity to get up to a 50% discount on their monthly rates in one of several ways. And that's on page 3 of the draft ordinance. It's also in the brochure. If you provide stormwater detention, you could get up to a 40% decrease in your monthly rate. If you provide stormwater quality benefits, which typically go hand in hand with wet detention basins or turf detention basins, you could pick up an additional 10%, and that would get you to the 50%. An alternative would be if you have a property that does not drain into the village's drainage system, say drains directly to Salt Creek or Sugar Creek, and does not impact our drainage system, you could get a 50% discount that way. And then the last one that we added was basically at the request of the school systems. They noticed that in the Downers Grove ordinance, they do offer an education credit. So we wrote that back in there, that if you offer a curriculum in stormwater education and it's approved by the EPA, and I guess there are written standards for that we would also extend the 50% credit. Some of the other changes, we revised the size of the ERU from 2,400 square feet to 3,000 square feet. It just, when we run through the GIS data, that number seemed to be make more sense. It's not going to affect the total cash flow but it will reduce the overall burden on some of the commercial properties. So, but overall, we're looking to generate about $900,000 annually from the rate. The study did identify about $8 million in needed capital improvements, whether it's flood control projects, new storm sewer separations. These are all unfunded currently. Most of them are already in the CIP. More will be identified as we go forward with some of the flood control studies. One of the things we were asked to do is to actually produce exhibits for some of our property owners so they could see what their impact is. The booklets you have in front of you are actually all the village properties. We tabulated what the village would be contributing, and that comes out to $20,400 per year based on all the village-owned property. So we would be paying as well. Basically, we would be putting money into the stormwater utility fund as our contribution. And over there on that board is a sample of, I think the top one's the village campus in the calculation, and I can't see what those other buildings are, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to bring it over?
Iowa Community Center and Jefferson Pool. So that's just to give you an example. If we are given direction to keep proceeding with this process, then our plan would be to start sending these out to the largest users so we can inform them of what the impact would be. The brochure, as Andrew Keener mentioned, has been updated. So all the information we're proposing is written into the brochures.
Thank you, Aaron. And I know it's been some time since we've talked about the utility fund, and again, when the April storms happened in 2013, staff was out in the field, walking through the water, taking pictures, locating pumps, and that's one of the reasons. That event was one of the reasons we commissioned Stanley and Associates to do a stormwater rate study. Is how do you pay for all the infrastructure that needs to be corrected? And Vitas and I meet I don't know how many times during the day, but we always talk about stormwater because if you don't address it, it's not going to go away. We have been over to Monterey, I don't know how many times, and one of my favorite stories or questions to ask Vitas is, what are we going to do with the ditches on Monterey, because they don't have storm inlets, they don't have curb and gutter, but they have ditches, which we do not maintain. And so there's a lot of overland flooding, so I always ask Vitas, when are we going to take care of those? But we did write a grant, and the grant was successfully approved. So Vitas, if you'd like to maybe expound a little bit about that, because and board and your honor and folks at home, we don't have enough funding to take care of all the infrastructure needs, but we're always looking for grants, always. No matter what we're trying to accomplish, we're always looking for grants, whether it's recycling, whether it's safety for the Metra, whether it's skate park, whether it's any kind of green infrastructure, whether it's lighting efficiency. We did write a grant for the Monterey area, and if you'd like to discuss a little bit of that.
Yes, that project is going to be about $85,000 on South Monterey. It's the unapproved section between Washington and Madison. Basically, what it will allow us to do is to redefine the ditches in there, remove the soil, put in modified soil, and basically create bioswales, rain gardens, whatever you want to call them, but basically create an area that's green, but it also holds a lot of water. So the grant from the state is the Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant that's going to cover 75% of the cost of the project. We've submitted an application to DuPage County for their stormwater quality program to pick up the other 25%. However, there's still about $50,000 of other improvements need to be done there that are not funded, as there are localized drainage projects throughout the village that are completely not funded. We've got a project at Villa in Washington that's looking for funding. We have the property we purchased on South Monterey that we want to make into a detention basin. We need funding to build that project. Our storm sewer separation projects are not funded. The stormwater utility could pick up half the cost of those. Our drainage assistance program for backyards could be expanded to help many more residents. So there's just, we have a whole ongoing list of improvements and assistance and just regular maintenance of our drainage system. You know, parts of our drainage system are 80 years old. You know, they need to be maintained. Eventually, it's going to need to be replaced, just like everything else. So part of this would go towards operation and maintenance and routine replacement as well as flood control.
Okay. Manager Keenan.
Your Honor, I was going to ask Director Giskelis if you could briefly explain where our stormwater funding comes from now. In other words, the buyout.
Right. Currently, there is no dedicated source of funding for stormwater. Part of it is in the road fund, so the street department activities, they include, you know, inlet cleaning, street sweeping, activities like that, that really are stormwater activities, but they're also road activities. Storm sewer improvements, when we can, we include them in the road project. So basically, the road fund is paying for those when it can afford it. Storm sewer separation projects, when we can afford them, are in the wastewater fund. So there's really no source of fund for the improvements. The stormwater buyout fund is when a developer comes into the village and wishes to pay a fee in lieu of providing stormwater detention. So that's really our only source of revenue. It's intermittent because it's based on development occurring that does not provide the detention physically. So we get maybe $25,000 to $50,000 a year out of that, and through that we fund our 50/50 program. Now, we've managed to build up some funds in that stormwater buyout fund, so that's helping us pay for the drainage studies that we're undertaking now or proposing to undertake. But once that's done, the money's gone until there's more development coming in that involves stormwater detention buyout. So it's really hit or miss.
In fact, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
In fact, Director Giskelis just touched on something that I'd like to bring up again, is that the backyard programs and helping our residents. I think last year we spent a little over $80,000 on the program that we created and brought to the board to reimburse each homeowner $1,000 to help them with the backup preventers, backflow preventers. So we had a number of residents take advantage of that program. And then the current budget that we're about to bring forward to the board for fiscal year 14-15 also has that program in. But that's being taken out of the wastewater fund. And that's how we're funding that. But that's just another mechanism to prevent flooding in the basements. And it's very useful. The study that was put together by a third-party consultant. It wasn't done by staff. It was an excellent aerial view of what we have done in the past, what we need to do. And I say it's a third party because staff did not put it together. It was not a biased report. The third-party consultant is basically saying, Village of Villa Park, you're at point A to get to point B. Here's what you need to do to pay for the various infrastructure that needs to be replaced or implemented, etc. And I did not bring my copy of the study tonight, so somebody can slap my hand, but I think it's about $8 million. It's listed in the study. It's Lufkin, a detention basin that needs to be worked on. It's the Jackson. You know, what really comes to my mind, and most of you don't know this, but on weekends I've been taking unofficial classes to be a director of public works. But what I've learned is water seeks its lowest source, its lowest level. And over by Wildwood and Monterey, you know, during the floods in April, that was awful. And it's the lowest part in the village. And it must have taken 10 days for that to dry and leave our area, because at the same time, the Ovaltine detention basin was rather high also. And so we had a successful grant written at some time in the past that we actually bought a home and demolished a home that would assist with overland flooding. Well, we've now written another grant.
That was on South Monterey, correct?
That's correct. Well, now we've written another grant that proposes purchasing 3 homes and demolishing them to assist with overland flooding, that the water would actually flow through Rotary Park, etc., to alleviate that. And so we're being proactive. And the reason this is before you this evening is it's discussion only. But certainly if staff's going down a wrong path, I certainly don't want to, as village manager, keep pushing down the wrong path. So I'm looking for direction this evening. If you'd like us to go down this path and continually to modify things and meet with additional businesses and move towards the ultimate goal of establishing a stormwater utility fund to pay for some of the infrastructure. So at this time, I'd really appreciate some direction. Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. Should we toss it to the, see if there's any, we do have people from the public here. Do y'all have any questions or comments before we get into a deep discussion up here? Okay. All right. Who wants to go first? Arm wrestle. Go split it in the middle. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam
I'll
President.
get to everybody, I promise.
I just want to say that I like what staff has done here. I like the incentives that have been built into this ordinance. I did speak with a trustee from Downers Grove about their process, and there was some opposition in the community for the stormwater utility, but generally speaking, members of the community accepted it, that they realized the necessity for doing it. So I feel that this is something that I could support.
Thank you. Trustee Davis.
2 things. So a single-family residence is roughly $65 a year, correct?
Right now, thank you, Your Honor. Right now, the study has the ERU at 3,000 feet. Square foot. And each ERU is valued at $5.45. And what we did, we took a look at all the residential parcels. And most of them are about the same, give or take. Some are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit larger. But for the most part, they're almost the same. So each residential parcel would be charged 1 ERU, which is $5.45 a month, which would be, you know, it's staff's proposal would be put on the water bill, so we just put out 1 bill, and it's $5.45 times 12.
And my second.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But when you go from residential to, say, institutional, like the Village of Villa Park, obviously we have some parking lots and some rooftops. And so when you divide the impervious surface by 3,000, and that'll generate the number of ERUs. So it could, say, the village could have 77 ERUs, so we'd be paying 77 times 545 a month times 12. And if we didn't have any discounts, then that'd be the full amount we'll pay. But if you had discounts, then you would drop it down. Now, the school district 88 and 45 have a number of discounts. For instance, 45 has some detention areas. 88, like Willowbrook, has most of it. You know, the lawn could be a detention area, could even be a regional area that may help us as a region that we're looking at. But so they'll receive discounts. Think of the old off-track betting, Mr. Gentili's organization. It has a detention basin located to the southwest. He'll receive discounts because of that. And so a lot of things we've looked at, and they're in the maps, and we have, for the largest provider of stormwater, for lack of a better term, largest payer of the stormwater fee, we created maps And if they had multiple parcels, we put their multiple parcels all together so we could see the gross and net effect, which is the fairest thing to do. So then when we met with them, we didn't have one parcel or two parcel. We had all the parcels, so they knew the gross and net effect. And so that's the way we're proceeding. Does that answer your question?
Well, I have one more, and the county's trying to do this very same thing, and I don't expect that their monies will help us here in town. Are we gonna be double charging our residents for the same thing, even though the county's doing it and we won't get their help?
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, Trustee Davis, that's a very good question. And I can answer it two ways. First way is that if the Village of Villa Park's proposed stormwater utility is adopted, we can guarantee that our residents, and we can guarantee this to the businesses, that all of those funds will be used in Village of Villa Park. Those won't be used in Elmhurst or Lombard. All those funds will be used to correct deficiencies within our borders. Deficiencies which will be on our website so that you can know where your $5.45 is or your $3,000. You'll be able to see the projects being completed because we are transparent. And I believe we should be. The other aspect is, I believe, and I have not had that much involvement with the DuPage County's switch of the stormwater property tax fee to the collection aspect. I guess property tax levy to the fee. But it's my understanding that the property tax amount collected from the residents of DuPage County is somewhere around 12 million. And it being switched from a property tax at 12 million to a fee-based, that I'm under the understanding, and I could be wrong, and I know this is being taped, that 39 million is not enough. So, but I can tell you again, that if the Village of Villa Park enacts the Stormwater Utility Fund, that all the funds collected will be used to correct our deficiencies. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay. Let me check the side. Okay, Trustee Bolfus.
Sorry about that. I've got a couple of questions. First off, let me just say, I'm in favor of this. We can't put up with the residents being continually flooded. And unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be cost money to solve the problem. We have to have a revenue source. Now I have some questions about the program. Now you're asking for discussion. My one question is to staff, is there any questions you need the board to answer for you to proceed at this time? Anything that you need clarification on or board input from?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. That's a very good question, Trustee Bolthuis. One of my main concerns is I want to make sure that the road we're proceeding on as staff is the correct road. Obviously, this is very time-consuming. It's very time-consuming from Vetus's standpoint and my standpoint, but it's really time-consuming for inline staff to go through and change things. And I just want to make sure that, quite frankly, that we have board support to go down this road. Thank you, Your Honor.
So I guess my question was, you've got my support, but is there anything, you're at a point in the process where you need some guidance or direction? No, or just we'll just keep going, or I'll ask more questions. What?
Or Director Descallis.
Well,
Tag team a little bit.
You want to just know if you should do it or not?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but also you know, the things that we're proposing that are new, are we on the right track with the incentives? I mean, is there any incentive you like that you don't like? Are the amounts enough?
Okay.
Do you want to see more? Do you want to see less? Or do you want to see it go away? That's basically what we're looking for. I mean, if we go forward, we're going to have to set up a rate structure, and that depends on, you know, the GIS, looking at the maps, identifying the impervious area, setting up the database, you know, doing the PR work with the others, and then coming back to you with the final ordinance. So it's going to be a several-month process to finalize everything. So I guess before we proceed on that road, we just want to make sure, should we keep going?
Okay.
And if so, are we on the right track with what we're proposing?
Okay. So I have a couple of questions, though. In regards to the incentives. I think the incentives are great, and the percentages look reasonable to me. But when somebody wants a discount, 40%, 50%, I'm questioning about what's the procedure, how difficult will it be for a resident to apply for an incentive? What kind of information, do they have to go out and get an engineering study to show you, to show the village proof that, that they have the adequate detention process, or they actually have a pond, or do you already have that information? In other words, how difficult is it going to be for a resident to apply for a incentive discount?
Okay, well, first of all, the incentives are really geared towards the non-residential properties,
Correct.
because there aren't going to be too many residences that have stormwater detention
Okay,
or
let
other
me-
stormwater facilities.
Where I live, we have our own detention pond. What will I have to do to get an incentive? Because we have a pond owned by the homeowners, which discharges directly into Sugar Creek. What do we have to do? Would we need a engineering study, or, you know, that's what, you know, the type of question I have.
Okay, well, what we plan on doing is basically either using or adapting the process the Downers Grove already has in place. They have a application process, and from what I understand, it's a fairly simple application. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Are you willing to maintain it? Can you produce records that you are maintaining it? Staff goes out, reviews it, signs off on it, and they're good for 5 years as long as they maintain the facility. So that's the key, is in their program, it's once you get the approval for the reduction, it's good for 5 years, but you have to maintain the property. So if it's obvious you're not maintaining it, they could revoke it, but otherwise you would reapply in 5 years. And from what I saw from their literature, it's a fairly simple application process.
Yeah, there's a number of, I'm not the only one that has a detention pond. There's a number of other ones I know that have it also. So that was just kind of curious about how you were going to handle that.
Well,
So
I guess if the detention basin provides for 100% of the stormwater detention needs for that subdivision, everybody in that subdivision would be entitled to the discount.
would that be one application or 26 applications?
I would think one application on behalf of all the properties should be sufficient.
Okay. Then you also mentioned earlier that some developers come in and they do a stormwater buyout.
That is correct.
But if they've already done the stormwater buyout, do they still have to pay an extra fee per month based on their square footage?
Well, the
Because they
stormwater-
paid.
They paid to save themselves construction costs. Actually, what they're doing is they're increasing the runoff, and so once they sell the property, the fee's actually gonna be higher because now they have less than adequate detention. So that actually pushes it the other way. And
Okay.
I know we may have to deal with some disclosure issues over that if they are given a break on detention, that the buyer needs to be aware of, that they may be paying a higher stormwater fee because their developer was allowed to put in less than the required detention. So that is a valid
Yeah.
point.
I was just wondering about that with some legality issues down the line, so. And this money that's accumulated would go into a designated fund that can only be used for stormwater issues?
Well, we already have a designated fund, the Stormwater Buyout Fund, so it only collects revenues related to stormwater, which right now the only source is the stormwater detention
So it would go into
fees. So we can
stormwater
utilize
buyout
that
fund.
same fund we already have established.
Okay. That's all right now. Thank you.
Trustee Taglia.
I'm also in support of this utility. It costs about $65 a year. But one of my main concerns is that as a liaison to the Senior Concerns Commission, there are many seniors in town who are on fixed incomes that are near poverty level. And I know probably some people don't want to hear that, but my concern is that, is it possible to have an exemption for seniors on fixed incomes that are at or near poverty level? Because I know for most of us, $5 or $6 a month doesn't matter. But the reality is that it does matter to a lot of our residents. And I just wondered if that was something that could at least be looked into and quantify how many, if it's possible, and maybe change the rate for people who are able to pay it. My point is that someone has to represent our seniors who are disadvantaged financially, and I would just ask that the staff consider that, and I would hope the board would support that as well. So, thank you.
Does Downers Grove address that question?
They do not have anything like that, to my knowledge.
Trustee Case.
This is another no-brainer. Why do we have to wait 7 months? Why don't we just get going with this and move it on? This is ridiculous. I can't wait 7 more months for this.
There's a process.
Well, I believe the Andrew mentioned July 1 was
whether you
what
like
the
it or not.
schools requested.
Oh, my God.
Well, whether they like it or not. Okay, trustee Ayala.
I want a better definition on impervious surfaces. I want to know what they are. I don't want it to say that it's just an area that impedes infiltration of stormwater into the soil. I want to know that. I want to understand that better. I understand what we're getting at is sidewalks, but I know we have, or driveways, or streets, or roofs, over houses or garages, anything that stops the water from dropping onto the dirt.
So you would like a more elegant definition?
So I want a more specific definition there, because I know in some areas in our ordinances, we use brick pavers that have the crushed stone, where we're gonna allow crushed stone in other areas to have a reduction. I'm wondering if
That's
crushed
already
stone-
in the proposed language.
I saw the crushed stone, but
Yes.
I didn't notice if, did not see that, brick pavers or paver materials.
Permeable. Would have to be permeable, obviously.
And in some instances, I mean, I know Lombard considers brick pavers to be impermeable, 100%.
But there are permeable pavers as well. The porous pavers are permeable.
Okay. So
They
can
do
we
make those.
Can we clarify that?
Yes, sir.
To the extent that we need to.
Yes, sir.
Or to the extent you feel we need to. ERU, the way I'm reading that is, I got a residential unit, I'm trying to come up with an ERU that generally defines, for the business side of this, structure, what they would have in a residential structure. The residential side, it's just a straight flat fee, correct?
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're 2 acres, quarter acre, a fifth of an acre, you're more or less $65 a year, plus or minus a
Yes,
few
sir.
cents.
We did not have a tiered system for residential.
Okay.
We wanted to keep it simple, and our lot sizes are fairly homogeneous compared to other villages.
Understand, and I agree wholeheartedly. All right, so there, I think I'm okay. Undeveloped property, I would like a more eloquent definition again, if you,
Okay.
as you state. I don't see anything about mixed uses in here. I just happen to have a mixed use, so it occurred to me that there's nothing on a mixed use,
Well,
which is.
it's either single-family residential and everything else.
Okay. I didn't find that in here where I could find everything else. Because
We
the
can
mixed
clean that
use
up.
is residential. So,
I think we need to define it's single-family residential, then I think that would,
single-family residential, yeah, you got that in here.
We can adjust that.
Okay.
You should do it as the way you're assessed.
And then,
The way it's done in other towns is the way you are assessed. Are you assessed as residential, or are you assessed as commercial?
Non-residential.
Yeah, that
Okay,
would
so
be,
we're gonna go residential, non-residential. If you've got any use that's not residential,
Well, single-family homes are residential. Everything else
perfectly
is
understood there.
non-residential.
Right.
For definitions here,
Okay,
unless you're vacant, of course.
right. Credits back. I'd like to give businesses more of an incentive to keep their water on site so it doesn't go into his backyard. So let me go all the way to 0 for them. Let me go up to 100% credit to the business owners that can develop their site so that it's not pouring water off their site, it's totally self-contained. I don't know if that can actually happen. And I'm wondering if that's why you came up with, you know what, the best that anyone's ever gonna be able to do is about half.
Well, I think the thinking is there is a drainage system out there that
Correct.
has to be maintained, so everybody has to share in that maintenance somehow. So there really is no zero impact, because there's gonna be some impact somewhere on the drainage system.
So we thought about that. You feel like the maximum that you could go to is 50%. I would try to encourage that as much as possible. So I don't have a problem with 50. I'm wondering if it should be.
It seems
more of
to
a
mirror
credit.
what the other
Okay.
ones before us have done. So it seems fairly consistent from what I've seen with the other municipalities that have stormwater utilities.
And then I know what tends to happen with 5-year reapplications. You could probably think of a couple people with reapplications that they have to go through for special use permits that haven't been back in 20 years on occasion, that are still running under 20-year-old special use. So 5 years it comes up quick to a business owner. So I would like to see that go to at least 10. Probably not more than 10 though. And then most important to me is, what do you think this is gonna cost staff-wide? I understand it's a significant expense and time to come up with this idea and implement it. What do you think it's gonna cost to maintain it going forward on the billing, on investigating applications for credits from the business owners that are gonna pursue that? And in business owners who have been approved, re-inspecting them on a periodic basis to make sure that they're continuing to comply with the needs of their site to maintain that detention area that they put in to get the credit in the first place. Do you have any kind of idea on that at all?
Well, the rate study does identify operation and maintenance costs, so all those things you talked about are part of the operation and maintenance. As part of being a good steward, it's maintaining your drainage system, so the inspections are part of routine inspections of our own system, so those will be, built into it. As far as the applications, you might see a flood of them, no
Right.
pun intended, at the beginning. But
follow you.
once that levels out, like you said, if
Right.
they're good for 5 years, 10 years, you're not gonna see them again for a long time. So I don't see that being a big, the biggest time investment will be in setting up the billing.
Right.
And that's upfront work.
Does the storm study indicate what we net out of that program? Did it go through that, if you recall?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what, on a percentage basis?
900
anyway?
900 something thousand.
What was it?
900.
$1 million.
About 800.
900,
900,000
said.
per year.
Yeah.
Is the gross revenue or the net?
Yes, gross revenue.
Gross revenue. And do we have an idea of what the cost is on that?
The
800,000?
operating cost in the study was 600,000, so that would leave 300,000 that could be used either to pay off some type of revenue bond issue or just for ongoing capitals.
Right, so in order to implement this program, I think what I'm hearing is, I'm gonna bring in $800,000 a year, but in order to run the program, I'm only gonna net out of the program about $300,000 a year.
No.
No.
Okay, that's not what I'm understanding. Then could you clarify? So that's what I misunderstood.
Well, if we staff up based on the study, we would be spending about 600,000 a year in ongoing maintenance, replacement, but that's all things that aren't being done right now, that should be done. So we would be putting the money back into maintaining and replacing the system. The additional 300,000 would now be for these flood control projects that aren't yet identified.
That's not what I meant.
Okay.
Did the study go into taking out the fact that we're going to have infrastructure that we're going to be putting in with these funds? Just maintaining the system of the program, right?
Are you talking about the overhead costs,
Yeah,
basically?
the overhead costs, right. Did it go into that at all?
Administration is what.
Do you remember, Alf, went into that?
I don't
I'd have
remember
to
when
look
I
to see if there, I don't know if
read the
there's
study
administration involved,
about
but
that.
basically, we already have administration for water bills, for sewer bills, for garbage bills, so that cost would be shared by the other utilities that are part of the billing
Yeah,
system
and
now.
I like that. I mean, I like the idea that we're gonna double up. I mean, we're also doubling up someone's effort too. So.
So it would be an incremental effort, it wouldn't be a totally
Understood.
new effort.
Understood. So I'd like to see if you could point out that in the study, if it's there at all, so I don't have to go searching for it. If it's a lot of time to go searching for it, don't worry about it, I'll search for it myself. You know,
Well, if it's
don't
not
worry
in
about
there,
it,
I'll
I'll
see if
search
we can
for it.
obtain that.
Don't worry about it. And, that's it, that's all I got.
Good?
Thanks, yes, thank you.
I've got one more.
Okay, trustee
One more.
Volkowitz.
In regards to Chris's comment about a 5-year, 10-year reapplication, I think if you leave it at the 5 years, and whoever had applied, when it's 4.5 years, you could send them a notice that they have to reapply.
Or we could have the
Yeah.
computer give us automatic
Right.
reminders to send them a notice.
Right, an automatic reminder. Now, I know though this issue is property-based. So, my question sort of is, let's say I have a business in town, I rent the property, and I pay the water bill. But the issue with the stormwater really isn't mine as a tenant, it's an issue for the property owner. Have you thought about that, or?
That's one of the reasons why it's gonna take several months to set up the billing, because you are correct. In some cases, the bills will be going to the owner, and he's not the one getting the other utility bills.
Right.
So there will be a divergence in some cases. Where possible, we'll put it all in one bill, but you're absolutely correct. It's not going to be possible to do that in every cases, because we have strip malls. Some have individual water services, some don't, some have master meters, some traverse multiple properties, some are leased, some are owned. So we're gonna have different situations that we have to deal with from a billing standpoint.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while to figure that one out.
Well, and that's why we're asking for direction before we start tackling those issues.
I don't know what kind of direction to give you on that.
Yeah.
Clear out
Yeah,
your
it goes
calendar.
in a rent one way or the other, but
Right,
Madam President?
You're good?
I'm done.
Okay, yes. Actually, let me go to trustee Wagner first. Yeah,
Just a
and
very
then-
quick question, Madam
Thank you,
President.
trustee Ayala.
You mentioned that staff talked with the business community. Did we talk with organizations like Easter Seals or churches to get their reaction as well?
We sent copies of the brochure and letters to the top 20 properties of the pervious area, offering to meet. I think only a handful took us up on that. Now, we're gonna follow up if we're directed to go forward with sending out these exhibits here, and we'll again offer them the opportunity to meet and discuss.
And what was the reaction? Did we get any reaction
Very little feedback.
from Target or Walmart or?
I think I had 2 phone calls.
That's all I had.
Trustee Ayala.
That's not surprising.
In regard to the billing part of it, my thinking is leave it go to whoever's getting the water bill can get that bill. Because you have the same problem now where
right.
if I'm a tenant, I may or may not be paying the water bill even though I occupy the space. Just because I occupy the space doesn't mean I'm paying the water bill for that space. And I think it'll be consistent and much easier to manage having one system of billing rather than multiple systems of billing. So just tie it into that water bill regardless of who owns the property.
The issue comes in when you have multiple water users
I
on a
follow
single
you.
parcel,
I
then which
follow
one
you.
gets the bill? So there, I mean, we're gonna do what you suggest where possible, but there are gonna be exceptions.
Sure. And I'm sure that there's times where you have large strip malls now where it's one unit owner for the entire parcel, but 16 different water bills go to it.
Right.
Even though
I
we
would
prefer
rather
not to
send
do
one
it that
bill
way.
in those cases than 16
And it
bills.
should go to the owner of the
Right.
property.
That's all I got for now.
Anybody else? Okay. My only question is, what's the staff plan? I mean, we're talking a lot about it here, and we have a handful of residents here, but what's the plan to really get the word out about this? We should put this on the website just initially, maybe put an article in the newsletter that's gonna be coming out in the spring, but what else are we gonna do to really get the word out? Because this is not only complicated, it affects basically everybody in town. So I'm just wondering how are we gonna get the word out?
Well, certainly we could put the brochure on the website if it isn't there already.
Yeah.
We do have the current bills on the postcard, so we can start putting messages up there. Once we have more specifics besides the brochure,
Right.
then we could actually start putting out draft copies of the ordinance, but I would think we would want the village board to see that first before we do that.
For sure, yeah. We just need to think about our mode of communication. I mean, we up here know a lot of people, we can spread it word of mouth, but, we're planning on doing a town hall meeting later this spring, it's gonna be really basically about the pools, but maybe we can carve out a chunk of time, maybe during that as well, to just explain this a little bit more. We might have more resident, interaction at the town hall meeting, and just whatever we can do to get the word out. And I know we do a lot of Nixle, which is text messaging and our constant contacts, and, we've been doing a lot more with social media, putting things up on our Facebook page and things of that nature. So any mode of communication, that's what I would ask.
We also have the PowerPoint from last time that we can modify and put that through the various channels.
Because this is complicated too. I mean, they can read it, but, of course, come to the board meetings if we move forward with this, so. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, so then we need to know if we have a consensus here to move this forward. So I think we should probably do a roll call vote on that to give staff direction to continue moving forward with this. So we've identified that there's already a lot of time that's gonna be invested in the next steps in this complicated issue, so I think we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, trustee Aiello,
Yes.
trustee Bolfus,
Yes.
trustee Taglia,
Yes.
trustee Case,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Davis,
Yes.
President Bowie.
Yes. Okay, so we'll move forward. With that, we will, item number 14 is convene to the formal agenda. Yes. We haven't had a meeting in a while. A lot of stuff. Okay, I have a few things. Item number 1 under the formal is village president's report. I do have just a few things. Just want to give a heads up to the residents. If you haven't heard already, Villa Park's been the police department's been issuing alerts in regards to some residential burglaries that's been occurring all over town, specifically the areas near East Highland and East Washington, East Wildwood, and the 600 block of North 3rd Avenue. Whoever's committing these crimes are going through the back door, they're prying open the doors, they're breaking open the back doors of the residents. So just want to kind of put this on your radar. If you see anything suspicious, the police have been asking for help in trying to locate these people. I'm confident that our police will. They are working very hard on this case. So if you see anything that looks unusual, please don't hesitate to call 911. Even if it ends up being nothing, let the police figure that one out. But please just call 911. I don't know if there's a description of a vehicle or if we have anything else. I'm looking at our police chief in the back here. So we don't have really any information to go on yet, but keep your eyes open, keep your ears posted. You have a neighborhood watch program on your block. Please inform the folks on your block. If you don't have a neighborhood watch program, the police can help you get one set up. So just want to let you know, regardless of the cold weather, there's been some residential issues, so I want to let you know that. Also, friendly reminder in regards to our fire hydrants. To be friendly to our fire hydrants, and many of them have been dug out, but I think there's still some that are probably buried in the 14 feet of snow that we have out there now. So just kind of keep an eye on that and try to keep the hydrants clear if you can for our fire department. Also, while we're on the topic of water, back at our January 13th meeting, I had mentioned that the village was exploring the possibility of getting involved with a suburban water task force, which is a subgroup of the West Central Municipal Conference. Well, since our last meeting, manager and I met with the folks at the West Central Municipal Conference in regards to getting more involved with this subcommittee. What it really would be about, it would be tied to any casino gaming license that the city of Chicago may receive. And in return, there'd be a revenue formula that would be put together that would then bring back some of that revenue back to the municipalities that are getting hit with all of these water rate increases. And so there's this task force that's been established. I've been formally asked to participate in this task force, and I happily agreed to be a part of it. I was very flattered and very nice opportunity. And with that, I also wanted to let you know that the Water Rate Protection Act was recently introduced in the House by State Rep. Emanuel Chris Welch and State Senator Stephen Landeck. And I just happened to be at a legislative breakfast on Saturday, and both of these legislators happened to be at that breakfast. So I bent their ear quite a bit and explained that I'm very excited and eager to be a part of it. And with that, there's some plans that as we move ahead with this task force, there might be a press conference, there might be some other events to start kind of creating more awareness about this. If there are any business owners, and I've talked to some of you that have been hit pretty hard with the rate increase, any residents out there that would be interested in somehow being involved and having your voice be heard, you can contact me by phone at 630-834-5032 or via email. President Bullwinkle at invillapark.com. My contact information is also on the website. And I'm keeping the board apprised. Andrew and I will continue to keep everybody informed as this moves forward. It's in its infancy, but we're doing everything we can to be, we talked about being proactive, especially with this situation that's just hitting everybody really hard. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that. I also mentioned that staff has been very busy pulling together information so we can bring a town hall meeting to the residents. We did a town hall meeting last June in regards to our infrastructure, our roads and sewers and all of that. We're looking at bringing a town hall meeting to the residents in regards to the pools. We'll probably try to maybe carve out some time to talk more about the stormwater utility. We'll see. There's a lot of things to talk about with the pools. So, but just wanted to put that on your radar, that it's on our radar. And as soon as staff, there's a lot of work to do to pull some information together. But when we have the date, time, and the location and all that, and agenda, we'll certainly bring that to you. Also, there's a St. Alexander's Church fundraiser coming up, A Night in Paradise, to benefit the children of St. Alexander's School. It's coming up on Saturday, February 22nd, from 6 o'clock to midnight. This is an annual event that they do. We'll be at the Diplomat West Banquet Hall on North Avenue and Route 83 there in the corner. Tickets are $75 a person, and you get dinner with an open bar, silent auction featuring lots of great prizes, vacation getaways, airline tickets, you name it, they'll probably have it, along with a special 2014 honoree, former Attorney General, grandparent, and St. Alexander alum, Jim Ryan. So there's a lot going on at this event. It's a good cause. So if anybody's interested in donating to the silent auction or purchasing tickets, you can contact St. Alexander School at 630-834-3787. And finally, I hate to end on this somber note, but I just received word later this afternoon in regards to Phil Greco and Alicia Bailey in regards to their mother-in-laws who just recently passed away. Phil Greco's mother-in-law, Loretta Olinger, that might be a name familiar to a number of people in town, and Alicia's mother-in-law, Barbara Bailey. Ms. Bailey was laid to rest today, but the wake for Phil Greco's mother-in-law and Loretta Olinger will be on Tuesday, February 11th from 4 to 8 p.m. with a prayer service at 7 p.m. at Sturley Funeral Home here in Villa Park. So I just wanted to convey my condolences to the Greco family and to the Bailey family. So with that, I'll move on to item number 2, public comments on agenda items. This is for the formal, regarding items number 4 through 8 on the formal. So if anybody from the public who'd wish to speak on agenda items on the formal, items number 4 through 8, this is your opportunity to speak. We'll have you come to the podium if there's something on your mind. And we ask that you, if you do have anything, to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do you have anything on your mind? Are you good? You good? Okay. Then we will move on to item number 3, amendments of the agenda. Does anybody on the board have any items that they'd like to amend on the formal agenda? Speak now, if forever hold your peace. We good? Okay. Item number 4, the consent agenda. This is items A through D. I'm just going to list the headings for the record. A, minutes from Village COW for January 13th, 2014. B, minutes from the Village formal board meeting for January 13th, 2014. Review and approve a resolution authorizing an expenditure of funds for the purchase of a police squad car. And letter D, review and approve intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, for repairs to North Avenue Bridge over Salt Creek. I have a motion on the consent agenda.
Madam President,
Trustee Bolfus.
move for the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Madam President,
Trustee Taglia.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions and comments from the board? You good? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Ayello.
Abstain.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Okay, item number 5 on the formal. Consider approval of village website transparency policy. Yes, it is here. And everybody got a copy of the transparency ordinance too. Okay. Consider a resolution approving a proposed website transparency policy. The Village of Villa Park values an open and transparent dialogue with its residents. In order to meet that goal, staff recommends that the village institute the village website transparency policy. The village's current transparency score is 91.4%. In enacting this transparency policy, it will codify the recommended practices by the Illinois Policy Institute. I have a motion on item number 5.
Madam President,
Trustee Taglia.
I'll move for the approval of item 5.
Okay. Have a second?
Madam President,
Trustee Bolfus.
second.
Any questions or comments from the board? No questions or comments? There are a number of things that this transparency ordinance covers, and we will have this on our website if anybody has any questions, but it's pretty detailed, and we'll probably give you a lot more information than you ever thought. So we appreciate this coming forward, and let's do a roll call vote.
Trustee Ayello.
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Item number 6 on the formal. Consider resolution approving a contract proposal from Christopher B. Burke Engineering, Limited, CBBEL, for preparation of a comprehensive flood plan. Resolution approving proposal from Christopher B. Burke Engineering, Limited, CBBL, for preparation of a comprehensive flood plan. The storms in April 2013 affected many portions of the village. During and after the storm, village staff gathered flood-related data, took numerous photos, some of them you see here tonight, developed maps identifying affected areas, and interviewed residents to obtain more details regarding the nature and impact of the floods. Village staff wishes to develop a new comprehensive flood plan that will incorporate data from this and other recent storms to identify and prioritize future flood control projects. Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, CBBL, has submitted a proposal in the amount of $110,000 for this purpose. Christopher Burke Engineering will use its hydraulic computer modeling methods to determine existing levels of flood protection and to develop drainage improvements. The study area will encompass the entire village outside the Sugar Creek Basin, including combined sewer areas. Christopher Burke Engineering has provided similar services to numerous communities in the region. Project costs would be divided between the Stormwater Buyout Fund and the Wastewater Fund. I have a motion on item number 6.
Madam President,
Trustee Taglia.
I'll move for the approval of item 6.
Okay, do I have a second?
Madam President,
Trustee Wagner.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Questions and comments from the board? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Ayello.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Okay, item number 7 on the formal. Consider resolution approving an annual update of the village's safety incentive programs. The Village Safety Committee annually compiles goals and objectives for the upcoming calendar year in addition to reporting on the previous year results. It is recommended that the Village Board once again approve the Safety Incentive Program for 2014 at an estimated cost of $6,750, which is based on employees choosing $50 or a half-day off if the village goals are met. Only one department did not meet their goal in 2013. We won't out them there. In addition, it is recommended that the Safe Driver Program is also approved in 2014 at an estimated cost of $1,100. If the board agrees, then the committee is requesting a formal resolution is adopted immediately in order to set 2014 goals and publicize for all eligible employees. Motion on item number 7.
Madam President,
Trustee Wagner.
make a
Or
motion
sorry,
for number
Trustee
7.
Bolfus. Got dyslexia here tonight. Okay, do I have a second?
Madam President.
Trustee
Second.
Ayala. Yes, okay. Questions and comments from the board? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Ayala.
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Item number 8, consider resolution approving a contract proposal from V3 Engineering for preparation of a comprehensive flood plan for 1/3 of the village of Villa Park. The storms in April 2013 affected many portions of the village. During and after the storm, village staff gathered flood-related data, took numerous photos, developed maps identifying affected areas, and interviewed residents to obtain more details regarding the nature and impact of the floods. Village staff is developing a new comprehensive flood plan to identify and prioritize future flood control projects. The third component of the proposed plan is an evaluation of the Sugar Creek drainage basin. V3 Consultants has submitted a proposal in the amount of $69,735 for this purpose. This study will focus on the specific areas such as Addison Avenue north of Madison, Jackson Pond and Lufkin Ponds, the 800 block of South Michigan, and the areas near Terry Lane. The report will include flood routing information, inundation maps, and proposed mitigation alternatives. This study will interact with the current study being conducted by RJ & Associates, Combined Sewers, and Chris Burke Engineering Limited Comprehensive Flood Plan. The project costs will be charged to the Storm Water Buyout Fund. Do I have a motion on item number 8?
Madam President,
Trustee Wagner.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Madam President.
Trustee Case.
Second.
Okay. Questions and comments from the board? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Ayello.
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Item number 9 on the formal, public comments on non-agenda items. And seeing that we, oh, all right.
I heard that, uh-oh.
Can you keep your comments to 3 minutes?
It'd be less than that. Just
Okay.
want to make sure the board knows, the police and fire department, along with our law enforcement and emergency response partners, will be conducting an emergency response drill on Wednesday, the 12th, at Jackson Middle School. There's no school that day. I believe it's an institute day, and we've got a drill planned. So if you live near Jackson Middle School and you see lots of police cars and fire trucks, it's just a test. And that's what we're doing on Wednesday, so.
Wednesday, that
The
is
12th,
February
2
12th.
days, 2 days. So, we passed out flyers in the neighborhood to all the surrounding properties to warn them. The school, I believe, sent it out through their notification system. This is the last stop for making notifications right here for the board.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the heads up. All right. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We're going to move on to item number 10, Village Clerk's Report. Clerk Kornecki, what do you have for us tonight?
Yes, I just want the public to know, especially our senior community, that we have a SALT meeting coming up on actually Wednesday, the 12th. So it's just in a couple days. And that is, it will be at the same place, Community Recreation Building on Wildwood, 320 East Wildwood. We have a new officer who is doing this, is Officer Rung, Jeff Rung. Rungy, okay. I said it different ways each time, so that's the correct way, Rungy. And he is coordinating this program and has a speaker that will be from the DuPage Metropolitan Enforcement Group. talking about drug issues and enforcement, things like that. So it should be very interesting. Senior Concerns Commission will again be providing a lunch, and we always have a nice group of seniors that come out. I hope the weather isn't a problem, you know, whatever it will be, but they certainly are welcome. Starts at 11, I believe 10:30. Some snacks are brought in by Officer Runge, and then program starts at 11, ends at 12, and then we have lunch. So, just want to make sure the word's out there.
Thank you.
That's it, thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number 11, Village Trustees Report. I'm going to start to my right. Trustee Bolfus.
I've said enough already tonight. Nothing else.
We're getting a little punchy.
Nothing tonight.
Okay.
Just,
All
I
right.
wanna-
So Trustee Bolfus, you're good.
I'm good.
Trustee Taglia, you're
I
next.
just want to thank our village manager for his continued excellent job that he's doing. Thank you for finally getting the transparency policy on our books. Thank you to the board for supporting it. I appreciate it. And that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Trustee Case.
Nothing.
You good? To my left, Trustee Davis.
Thanks. I have two things. The Villa Park Pride Commission's annual chili cook-off and best cornbread contest is Saturday, February 22nd. Entry forms are still available at invillapark.com and Village Hall. It's my understanding the police and fire guys have not submitted. I think they're afraid of Public Works guys beating them, but I'm just saying. Those guys aren't on the list. I figured I'd bring that up, just so you know.
Okay, it's getting late, so.
The other thing is, the Pride Commission, I believe, is the only commission that has junior commissioners, high school age kids. And our kids are graduating this year, so we need some new commissioners. So, if you're a high school age child, kid, whatever, applications are available at invillapark.com, and it's a really fun time, and it's good having the teenage voice. I mean, they actually have input on this commission, so we'd like to continue it. So even adults, if you know any kids that would be interested, please have them fill out an application. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be very brief. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, the Park and Rec Advisory Commission will be meeting at 7 p.m. at Iowa Community Center. Last month, I attended the meeting of the Environmental Concerns Commission, and there was a presentation by someone from Addison Public Works about their use of a derivative from beet juice. I know our Public Works is experimenting with that, so I'm looking forward to report after the season's over with to see what their reaction is and the efficacy of using that. And we'd just like to remind village residents that if you want to vote in the March 18th primary, the cutoff, if you're not registered to vote, the cutoff to register is February 18th. And if you want to do that, you can go to the Villa Park Public Library, and they'll be glad to register you to vote there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Aiello.
Just one thing.
Sure.
Thank you. For those of you that went to Willowbrook, and those of you that may not have gone to Willowbrook who might know him, there's a gentleman who was a longtime coach at Willowbrook named Clint Evans. Coach Evans was a longtime Willowbrook football coach. Touched a lot of lives at Willowbrook over his years. Died Saturday, so not sure exactly how old he was. He was into his 80s. His daughter runs a child care facility over on Madison, and unfortunately, I don't have any information for you yet. So that's the best I could do, is just let you know that he passed away on Saturday. And if you want to try and keep in touch with Willowbrook, I'm sure Willowbrook High School will have some information out on how they're going to handle his memorial services sometime in the next few days, hopefully. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 12, Village Manager's Report. What do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a few things, just to keep it interesting here. as staff, we always talk about snow and ice this time of year. So I thought I'd kind of give the residents and the board just a little update on what we've been doing and what Mother Nature's been doing. So, yeah, exactly. Lots of shoveling. And actually, that's a very good statement. We've done a lot of shoveling, and I would just like to remind the residents, when you shovel or snow blow, don't blow it into the street. That because our plows are going to come right back and kind of put it near the end of your driveway and things of that nature. So try to keep it in the right of way if you could. But our staff's been pretty busy. The village has received a seasonal snowfall as of last weekend of 61.7 inches. And that's as of today. So we've responded to 39 events since November 25th. We've had this numerous plowing events with over 6 inches of snow or 2 inches of snow, etc. One event by itself had over 60 continuous hours of plowing, and we used over 145 tons of salt. So, I mean, our drivers were out, so that's quite a while.
But we're not running out of salt.
No, I'm coming to that good part. Yeah. So far, we've used 715 tons of road salt at a cost of nearly $37,000. We have about 450 tons of road salt stockpiled for the rest of the season. So hopefully that's enough. I know some villages, some cities have run out and actually had to locate some of that salt. In fact, one community told me they located it in Iowa and paid $150 a ton, when normally it costs right around $53 to $55. So we've been keeping in touch with our salt companies to see if anything else is available. And one of our basic commitments is to keep 1 year's salt stockpiled on hand from year to year. So obviously you can expect in this proposed budget, fiscal year 14-15, that we'll have significant salt purchases in there to build us back up over this period of time, because we've had, in the last few years, we've had over a year stockpiled, so, and it's really paid off. We didn't run out when many other folks have. But it's really been cold out there. I don't need to tell you that it's been, minus 10 degrees, minus 12 degrees. But the next kind of statistic is really interesting. And unfortunately, it's really interesting. But the village has already received many calls. Public Works has repaired 19 water main breaks, and well, probably 20, because we had Harvard this evening, so 20 water main breaks. But we've also responded to 21 frozen water services since November 25th. And what that really means, if you've read my report, is from the Buffalo box either to the water main, it's frozen, or from the Buffalo box to the home on the private lateral, it's frozen. And so what we normally do is we dig up the Buffalo box and we try to determine which way it's frozen. So it doesn't happen a lot. It's happened in the past. And what we'll do is, whatever direction it goes, we'll get it unthawed, but then in the spring we'll take a look at lowering those services so that it doesn't happen again. And but it's rather unique. I thought that was interesting. But I'll give you a couple more statistics. I can't even talk, but using 130 years of official snowfall data, this season currently ranks number 3 in the snowiest season to date, was 61.7 inches. The second, which some of us may remember, I wasn't born in this time, but it was 1977 to 1978.
Yes. Wasn't born, but he had hair back then.
It was 62.8 inches. And the first was 1978-79, was 79 inches of snow, and I remember that one. So, really interesting. But if we keep going the way we are, we could beat 79 inches of snow. So I hope not. But
Now we're coming to
we're right now we're among the 5% coldest weather since 1871. So the top 5%. So it's really been chilly out there. Want to kind of quickly update you on our recycling efforts. We're doing well. We've got, for the month of January, we had 117.87 tons of recycling versus 539.29 tons of refuse. So, we're increasing that, and that's our goal, to increase that, increase recycling and reduce refuge collection. Earlier, I asked about the wireless 911 surcharge sunset. This happens to be something that we're watching. It's SB Senate Bill 2973, which is wireless 911 surcharge sunset. And it happens to be proposed by our own Senator Tom Cullerton. But it removes the sunset date on the Wireless Emergency Telephone Safety Act. And really what this is, it keeps the 911 surcharge intact so it can help pay for the certain technologies. And in fact, here in Villa Park we have what I've commonly mentioned for about the last 6 weeks, a Zetron issue, which is down by fire station number 3. We have an emergency issue where we're trying to upgrade our technology. Well, some of this technology upgrade would be paid for through the wireless 911 surcharge. Otherwise, it's going to become part of the village's responsibility to pay for. So I'd really like that to stay intact and pay for some of the upgrades. Excuse me. Sorry, Your Honor. We are proceeding with the proposed budget for fiscal year 14-15. It's close. It's not done yet. We've had many departmental meetings. We're to a point now where we're looking at the capitals and looking at a few more departments. We've made numerous adjustments, kept in some items that I know the board appreciates, like the demolition fund, like the backflow preventer devices underneath the wastewater. We've kept that in, and some other items. It will not be long, just probably this next several weeks, that the budget will be before the board for consideration, and we'll bring it again as we've done in the past, by department and moving forward, etc. And it's my belief that you'll be extremely pleased with it. We've put a lot of hard work into it. We're just not there yet, and it won't be long. And folks out in at your homes and board, we've stopped typing in the agendas into PowerPoint, so then we could put them on the cable TV. With the last couple of agendas, the village manager, I've been reading them into a recorder, video, audio, and kind of doing a 40-minute presentation of what's on the agenda and kind of how it relates to the community and why we have it on the agenda. So I've done that for the last 2 board meetings and will continue to do that. And really what that does is it saves a lot of staff time from taking the agenda, typing it into PowerPoint, and it's very difficult sometimes to make the text fit into PowerPoint. So it takes hours actually to do that, and it's really an efficiency measure that we're doing. So I apologize you have to look at me, read the agenda, and talk about it. Maybe we can get somebody better looking to do it next time, but I'll work at that. So thank you, Your Honor. And one last item. We do have a pending retirement coming up from Marlon. And I wanted Marlon here this evening on purpose. I know he's been here for quite a while, but I know that when I send Marlon an email or I call Marlon, he gets the job done for me, lets me know when it's done. And in fact, I can give you an example. We had some some snow plowed into a public right-of-way by a private company, and Marlin reacted along with code enforcement and got the issue resolved, and it was near our metro station. So I appreciate all the hard work that Marlin does, and certainly, he's going to be missed in public works area, streets, fleet, parks and rec. I think over the many years, Marlin's probably had a hand in many different things. And now it's time for him to say goodbye and probably have a hand in many different things, such as grandkids. So, thank you for all you've done. Certainly appreciate it. This is going to be your last official meeting, the way I understand.
Yeah, if you want to come up to the podium really quick, so.
Thank you. Where did 18-plus years go? I came back in 1995 and still standing, which is good news. I could say a lot of thank yous, but I'd rather say it was a privilege to work for Villa Park. All of the residents, all the different boards, managers, presidents, all the commissions, VFW, all our commissions, the chambers, all the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, daisies that I've been involved with for planting flowers over the years. No, I will not miss the 24/7 on-call. I will have evenings to myself for the first time in 37 years, because my career in public service is 37 and a half years. So at 55, it's time to change my life. I have opportunities that grant me to do different things, and thank you, Villa Park. It was great. I'm excited for your future and for mine too, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again.
What's your official last day?
The 21st.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Next Friday.
Yeah.
The 21st of February.
So your official last day is Friday, February 21st.
That is correct, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or be politically correct, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm not good at cakes and coffees, so I had told a lot of my co-workers, colleagues, and any of my friends that I made in Villa Park, I'm gonna be up at the Double D Saloon from 4:30 to 7 on that Friday night.
You're shopping Villa Park. Hey,
I shop, yeah. So if you want to stop and have a cold one with me, please do.
All right. Thanks, Marlon.
All righty then. Yes, you're on the right path.
All right. Item number 13 on the formal village attorney's report.
It's too late, no
Oh,
report.
come on.
No
We're just getting
report.
started. Okay. All right.
It's so warm in here.
Yeah, it is.
My feet are
All 50
frozen.
degrees. Okay, item number 14. Information only, bill listing dated January 27th, 2014 in the amount of $1,026,316.81. Do you have any questions? This is information only. Any questions on the bill listing on that one? Item number 14? Okay, it's the first one. So we haven't been meeting other than about the last month. Okay, the next one, item number 15, information only. Bill listing dated February 10th, 2014 in the amount of $574,346.49. Do we have any questions on that bill listing? Nope, okay. Item number 16 then, consider executive session RE 5 ILCS C1, Personnel Matters and Collective Bargaining, 5 ILCS 120-2 C5, Purchase or Lease of Property, 5 ILCS 120-2 C28, Meetings between internal or external auditors and governmental audit committees, finance committees, and their equivalents, 5 ILCS 120-2 C11, Pending Litigation, and 5 ILCS 120-2 C21, Discussion of Closed Session Minutes. Do I have a motion on item number 16 to go into exec session?
Madam President,
Trustee Aiello.
move to go into executive session.
Okay, do I have a second?
Madam President?
Okay, Trustee Fulvis.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Case?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes, we will now convene into exec session, and adjournment will come later, so.
We will not be coming back?
We will not, I don't
No,
think we'll be
there'll be no
coming back. Nope, not tonight.
They need to know.
Thanks, Villa Park. For hanging in there with us.